thermal sound wave.
But yeah, Michael Douglas was a cool dude, though. You know what I mean? You know, we talked about the movie stuff. I also did some stuff for Warren Beatty too. You know what I mean? You know,
you said Warren
like
Beatty?
I said, yeah,
Oh,
we
Dick
did
Tracy.
some on his movie. What's the name of the movie I produced? Did some stuff on.
The one where he was a politician?
It was him and Halle Berry.
Halle Berry, yeah. Bulworth.
Yeah, and then, you know, we did some with the movie Tales from the Hood, and, you know, I just been real blessed, man, and I just wish a lot of my friends would have been able to get out the hood, too, and be able to see a lot of things that I was lucky to see, man, you know, and I think that, you know, it probably would have changed a lot of lives and stuff, you know what I mean?
You know, I got to say to you, I have to say for the movie Tales of the Hood, that is one of the old-time most scariest and funniest films ever. And you with one of our favorite actors, Clarence Williams III.
Yeah.
When he played the the funeral homekeeper,
right?
And all the guys saw their own bodies inside the caskets. We love that part, and just love that movie. That was a great movie. Just great. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite actors also.
WHCR.
Yeah, mine too.
Yes, 90.3 FM. We're talking to Mike Concepcion here, entrepreneur, executive, label owner, film producer, author as well, all those different things, man. But what do you enjoy out of doing all those things in the entertainment business? What's like your when do you have the most fun when you're doing something in the entertainment business? What's your most fun thing to do?
The most fun thing I really like doing, bro, is not the entertainment, is me talking to kids. Is me talking to kids and trying to get kids to respect their parents. They don't understand until their parents or whoever raised them is gone to realize that what they done did. And a lot of people might think that, you know, my mother died from cancer, and I feel I'm one of the reasons she's not here because I stressed her out, you know what I mean? And sometimes she might have had cancer, but then by her stressor might have brought the cancer better. You know what I mean? I think that if I would have just got off my butt and turned around and got a little job or something and helped to pay some kind of bills or food or something like that, she probably would have been here today. And a lot of youngsters don't understand that these days. You know, they just go out there and think shooting somebody or beating somebody up is fun, but it's not fun. And, you know, you don't realize until somebody in your family get hurt. And, you know, like I said again, a lot of these guys, they call themselves OG, and if they've been in the hood over 20 years, still doing the same stuff, then, you know, they should at least have the respect if they call the hood leader to turn around and try to get that youngster to get out there and try to make something really productive of himself. You know what I mean? And when they don't, like I said, it makes me feel real strange about that OG and wonder who's he working with, because he ought to know better to turn around and try to keep this youngster in that street fighting or doing whatever he's doing to hurt other black people.
You know, when we found out, well, when I really started looking into your background, because like I said, you kind of heard your name before, but you didn't really know who you were. But as people hearing your name, it's like I said, it's like Yeti or Bigfoot. He's just urban legend. It was because of Treach from Naughty by Nature, and Treach was talking to me. That's the big homie. He was like, "Hey, listen, man, I brought Mike Concepcion out there to Jersey, you know, for a talk to the youth." I was like, because I was hurting him, and that's also the picture. I was like, oh, okay. And I know Treach affiliation, and, you know, despite what many people may think about Treach, he's really big on trying to calm down gang violence.
That's
especially in New
That's
Jersey. New Jersey is just another level. You know, a lot of people, you know, in places like New York or Atlanta or even Chicago may think so, but Jersey is another level. It's just another level. And even Treach puts out videos, with Ice-T. I remember he had a video with Ice-T and a whole bunch of people, like, on some, like, bringing the truce. And it don't get no play a lot of other places. It don't. It played on Video Music Box. It don't really get that much play anywhere else. But Treach is trying. And, for what Treach is, and also to bring you over from, your background, he wasn't on that ignorant mindset to say, oh, he's from the other side, I'm not messing with him. He's like, no, I need you. And Treach always talked highly of you. And like Treach made me actually, look more into your career. And that's when just the whole can of worms was opened up.
Me and Treach always had a great understanding, man. Treach was always a good dude. Very good dude, man, and every time we see each other, we have the best fun with one another, you know what I mean? And besides that, it was another guy, two other guys, one named Sam and another guy named Blade, which also some good dudes over there, and they really try to do everything they can to try to make it peace over there, you know what I mean? And, Treach, that's my man, you know what I mean? And like I said, also my man Blade. And, those dudes really try to make it happen over in that hood and stop that. And like I said, man, I wish that again, that the ones who so-called the OGs, not just in New York and L.A. and many other places, turn around, and look back to what done happened over the years, that we never accomplished nothing but failure, that we should turn around and be able to, if we going to call some our community, be able to control that community, and be able to control that community, is turn around and try to create dollars, and figuring a way out, though, to get those dollars, and be able to own property, that's what I call controlling the neighborhood, not control. Nobody control the neighborhood on violence, because they're going to always have the kind of hardware to come after you to take you down or put you in jail. And that's the one thing you don't want to do, because you can be hard on the streets, but then once you get in that jailhouse, you got real square dudes that's counselors or police officers that talk to you any kind of way, tell you to shut the fuck up. Excuse me.
Easy, Mike.
Tell you to shut up. Tell you to shut your mouth. And that's what you're gonna do. Shut your mouth. You know what I mean? And I haven't saw too many guys that go in that jailhouse, sitting up there with a hard attitude, far as when one of them police talk to them and tell them to shut their mouth. And that's what they don't want to do, because, that ended up looking like a form of slavery. And you don't want to do that, when all you got to do is turn around and handle your business. You know what I mean? I never thought that I can turn around and have so much more respect being an honest guy than I did being a crook.
Thermal Soundwaves Radio, WHCR 90.3 FM.
Talking to Mike Concepcion right here on the program. Do you still do work with the Rap Summit?
Off and on, man. I got my own thing what I do. Like I said, I enjoy talking to kids as much as I can. You know what I mean? That's what my life is. I own got a school in L.A., 51st for slow learning people, you know what I mean, to help rehabilitate them. And one day I'm looking forward to turn around and trying to build a school and build a school and try to get lawyers, doctors, dentists, construction workers, and try to get a lot of the kids into those schools. Those are things that we need. To me, I know that we need back in school, so they have something forward to look for. You know what I mean? We don't have those kind of things in school, so kids have energy. So what they gonna place the energy on? You know what I mean? That's why most of them stay in trouble. I'm just so surprised that if we gonna talk about things, government and many other people gonna talk about things. Those are, I think, the things that we need to turn around and get back into school. Not just always about basketball, baseball, and football. You know what I mean? Most people only last 5 years in those things where people can turn around and have a career. You know, I mean, this is what I'm looking forward to opening one day as I continue to stack my money to open up a big old school out here, and I hope that'll do good. And then I want to go to other states and do the same thing.
Now, so how can people support the school that you're working with right now as you continue to build for the future?
You know, the school that I'm looking forward to support that for that is me turning around and open up another school where I can turn around and be able to pay teachers, like I said, that do law, that know about law, that know about being a doctor, dentist, or fiber and those type of things. That's what I'm looking forward for somebody to support. If there's going to be some support, is opening up a school like that where that I can get those kind of kids in there, and help them learn those kind of recreations better than all the sports and the rap and the many other kind of stuff. You know what I mean? That should come second.
So, how about this? Once you get that to the point where you feel like it, you're off and running, either I'll get the information from Mr. Nobles or you or whoever, and we'll make sure that we put that out and we blast that. If anybody want to do community service or help out with the schools, then they could contact. We'll give them like an email address or a website they could go to. They can contact you if they want to get involved.
I really appreciate that, man. And I mean that from my heart, man, because it's nothing there. You know what I mean? It's nothing. All kids can see today is music and athletic. And again, I think all those things should come second. You know what I mean? I think people should have real careers, you know what I mean, to where that, like I said, they can help their mother one day, and a lot of these kids gonna have family of their own where they'll be able to make sure that the kids have a roof over their heads, I just want to see our kids be protected, and not just our kids, all kids, though. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you this: if you in your movie, who would play you in your movie? What actor?
Well, the one that I've been talking to, Ving Rhames.
Yeah, he's a hell of an
because
actor.
I think we got personalities alike. We talked about it. I think we got personalities alike. So that's who I'm looking at right now, though. But when I do the movie, it's not going to be something that's going to glorify gangster for sure. It's most likely it's going to be to show how many people died, for a nothing cause.
Well, I'll tell you this though, Mr. Concepcion. If Ving Rhames is playing you, and if he's like the same, personality like how he was an animal like you, then I'm happy I know you, because when he played in that movie Animal, that was one hell of a movie, Animal. That was a great movie he played, and I know that didn't come out in theaters, but it's one of those movies you got to catch. You buy the DVD or somebody just let you know where to go see it at, and that was a hell of a movie. I also like the movie he played with Nipsey Hussle and Gilly the Kid also. That was a good storyline. Very good.
Yeah, he's a pretty dope actor. I like him. I like his whole style, his finesse. You know what I mean? And he's a good person when you meet him in person too, though.
And on the flip side, is it true that you had a hand-in of Interscope Records?
If you want to know the truth, in my heart, I feel I want built Interscope up. I remember when Interscope wasn't doing that great at all,
because they were bankrupt at one point, right?
And I don't know about that part, but I know Dr. Dre and when they was doing the Chronic, Dr. Dre and shit didn't even know that I broke that Chronic on the West Coast. Radio didn't want to turn around and play the song, and radio was kind of familiar with me. When we are on the same game, they have respect for me. And, you know, and Steph Johnson at Interscope asked me, could I get on the radio? And I broke that, and I took T.D.E up there. Teddy up there with Blackstreet, and we also produced Kirk Franklin's song Stomp.
And from there, did you also have a hand in Death Row Records, since it was on the
No, Death Row made Death Row, but you know, if I wouldn't have broke that record, it probably wouldn't have been no Death Row.
So it all started from the Chronic, and you getting that on.
It all started from the Chronic.
So I know you and what's the other gentleman that made Solar Records, Sounds of Los Angeles Radio?
Oh, Griffey.
Is his name?
Dick Griffey.
Dick Griffey, yeah.
Dick Griffey. I know he was an intricate part in that many people don't really hear about, but and I think rest in peace to him. I think he passed away a couple of years ago.
Yeah, you know, I was kind of real disappointed in that how he was treated when he passed, but you know, same thing with Gene Griffin and Luke Silas and Gerald Busby. I mean, you know, those guys made a lot of black people careers, you know, and once they passed, I mean, you know, I just disappointed how most of them got treated. I just think that a lot of the black people that they made careers for should have did a little bit more and honor them a little bit more. You know, if it was somebody to turn around that got little stars in Hollywood on the ground, it should have been somebody like Gerald Busby. You know, it should have been somebody. You know, Gerald Busby. You know, he got Bobby Brown and many other. Gerald Busby and Lou Silas helped black people turn around producers get, you know, when they was getting $5,000 to $500,000 a song. You know, to Dick Griffey turn around and help Babyface and L.A. start their career, and many other people, and too.
You know,
Shalimar.
And you mentioned that name. You mention that name to people now, they'd be like, especially people on the West Coast, be like, "Who's Dick Griffey?" You know, I say, "You never heard of Solar? Solar Sounds of Los Angeles Radio." That's like he's like one of the. He's like if I were to say, you know, Crocker over here, Ranky Crocker, you got to know who he is. I mean, everywhere you should know who he is.
Gerald Busby kept Motown current back in those years and days, and kept MCA rolling, because MCA really was, you know, they were a Japanese company. They really
a lot of those guys that we talked about, you know, really helped make, well, a lot of people don't realize, helped black people really rise to the top. I mean, really rise to the top, including Russell Simmons, you know what I mean? But a lot of those people helped a lot of black people, you know, to even Sylvia, you know, to a lot of people don't know, she was the first one that started, got rap popping with Right at the Light. Nobody really know that. She the one turned around and had the moments and stuff like that, you know, and you know, and you know, a lot of, you know, people just don't get their credit, you know, for what they built, you know what I mean?
And I saw her son and Leland Robinson. I saw him the other day. I saw him, matter of fact, I saw him like a couple days ago in Jersey. And you know what? It is what it is. They own that name also, right? You know, Sugar Hill Gang, and every time they perform, looks like Miss Sylvia Robinson was up on her game. Every time they perform, that money goes. They got to get partial of that money. They got to get permission, I believe, to even perform.
You know what? You know, some of these rappers, you know, trip me out. You know, I mean, you know, I know King Lamar is like my family. You know what I mean? You know, Top Dog Entertainment, that's my nephew, and you know, and when he got to shouting out about, you know, New York, is what he really was saying is they need to go back to the old things, like how, you know, Melly Mel and all of them used to do, and they used to get down and battle with each other and kick it. It wasn't about no fighting and stuff like that, and shooting and stabbing. And that's what he was talking about. You know, he wasn't trying to disrespect nobody. You know, he was saying, let's go back to the battle. Let's go down. Let's make it happen. You know what I mean? Let's roll with it. You know what I mean? You know, instead of people going out here ready to pull out a knife or a gun and all this kind of stuff. Let's have some fun while we doing this. You know what I mean? Let's don't make it serious because we can turn around and make a lot of money and have fun at the same time. And that's actually what Kendrick was talking about.
I believe in the beginning, a lot of people didn't understand it, but after a while they caught on. That's why you saw Kendrick Lamar performing at a concert, and he brought out Lil' Kim, and saying Queen Bee is here, and they started looking at him like, you know what, we did Kendrick Lamar. He was just talking about us in music. Other dudes, Trinidad James, other dudes, they just want to get a come up. They just want to start something. But people know that Kendrick Lamar, they like music. Like when Snoop Dogg came out, I think the most units he sold was in the East Coast when Snoop Dogg first came out. And he said it at the Source Awards. Like, y'all don't got no love for me. Most of my soul music comes from y'all.
It's like my nephew Top Dog. You know what I mean? It's like, that, I raised him, and even though I had my label and stuff like that there, and I came from gang, one thing I didn't want to do is turn around and have gangster rap. That wasn't going to happen on mine, at all. And I'm quite sure that's the same way my nephew feel the same way, you know what I mean? And like I said, when Kendrick put that out, it was all about everybody just enjoying life and having fun, and get back to the wrong thing where they can sit on the corner and turn around and start, going at each other, you know what I mean? Those things need to get back to, not everybody's turning around. We on some way out stuff now, man, and it's getting cold away from our roots, period. The music that they play today, man, you can't even dance to, you know what I mean? People wants to groove and have fun and dance, you know what I mean? And, and that's what it should be, man, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And one more thing before we wrap it up. Who are some of the other people that you're digging right now, in the rap game?
Other than, Thermal Soundwaves Radio, even though we don't rap.
Well, of course I'm digging Kenya. And I like, Jay-Z, that's my man, though, you know what I mean? And even though me and Puffy had our little thing with each other and shit, we talk and stuff like that, there wasn't nothing, you know what I mean? But, I kind of like where he come from, too, though, you know what I mean? Because of the fact that he, he don't come with that, old street stuff. I'm a party man, and whoever that's out there that's coming to party, that's who I like. But whoever's coming with that stupid on stupid, you know what I mean? If they that hard and you think you that hard and you're going to put something out like you're hard, then walk the streets by yourself.
Well,
not with a bunch of people. You know what I mean?
We have our guest. Say what's up, Spit Jim. Just say what's up to Mr. Concepcion.
Hold on. Yeah, Mike, we got Spit Jims here. He's from New York, man. Artist coming up, doing his thing. Really authentic, man.
What's going on, brother? Much respect to you, man. I know I'm fully aware of who you are and what you've contributed to hip hop. Just want to say thank you and salute.
Right on, big man. The same to you too, man. Same to you.
All right.
Sometime I'm coming out there real soon. We need to probably get together and just holler.
All right.
We'll be waiting out here for you, Mr. Concepcion.
Yes, sir. So, where can people reach out to you and support some of the causes and things that you're doing, especially with the youth?
Right now, I'm restructuring my whole self. Because it's a whole new world out there, and when I structure what I'm got to do, I got to really make sure that I'm correct, because you always try to find some haters. You know what I mean? I haven't ran up against that, you know what I mean, yet. But I want to make sure that when I structure this, that it's right, because, you know what I mean, I don't never want it to end up in a situation like the president is, you know what I mean? That he's trying to make sure everybody, had the right insurance, and somebody told him the wrong thing, and now they're beating him down on something that he tried to do right. So I want to make sure that I don't make the same mistake. So everything I do got to be calculated, especially right now, I don't want to make mistakes. So when it happened, I want to make sure that I definitely, because of the radio station and y'all, that I hit y'all before I even hit my own West Coast, you know what I mean? Because I want this to be really real when I turn around and start putting these schools together, because I want to hit L.A. first, and then I want to hit New York next. And then I want to hit Chicago and Washington and stuff like that there. But it's going to happen, you know what I mean? But I'm structuring and putting things together, you know what I mean?
And we appreciate you for including us and in what you're doing. And it's very big. And if anybody should that have any knowledge, or they should look you up and understand that you actually climb mountains, and you are a stand-up guy. And
but one thing, before I go off though, man, one thing I do want to say again, I wish all these dudes to think they're OG. If you can't walk down the street by yourself in any other hood, then you need to turn around and make sure you tell all the little youngsters, you know what I mean, that, you know, to better their life, not twist their life. You know what I mean? Ain't nothing happening in the jailhouse, you know what I mean, at all, you know, and they need to turn around and be real with them, you know what I mean, especially the ones who come out the pen, you know what I mean, because, you know, I always tell a OG that coming out the pen, you was all right in that pen. You got 3 meals a day free. You got free electricity. You know what I mean? And if you had a problem with somebody, you know who's coming at you in their pen. But when you're on these streets, it's a different thing. You know what I mean? So the pen today is not the pen in the jailhouse. The pen today is on the streets. And it's not happening. You know, one thing, I got my own kids. And one thing I didn't want my kids to do is get caught up in the same bull that I got caught up in. You know what I mean? So I hope that whoever OGs that's listening, you know, take it from me. You know what I mean? Because, you know, I'm the real deal. Trust me. Ain't no fake stuff about me. Trust me.
There you have it. We're going to leave it at that. Mike Concepcion, folks, make sure you support his activities and what he's doing, especially on the ground in the communities with the youth.
And
very,
one more
very important,
time,
man.
Big shout out to Kiana and big shout out to Mr. Craig Nobles also.
Tell my man Treach I share a lot of love to him, man.
Definitely. I hate up the big homie. Definitely.
Y'all take it easy, man.
All right.
God
Peace,
bless
Mike.
y'all too.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Bye.
It's Thermal Sound Waves, a natural alternative to fast food radio.
Thermal sound waves, y'all. They hot.